This is the perfect RIA, in case you didn't know. Bringing you all the strategies to help your business grow. Are you happy? Are you satisfied? Are you hanging on the edge of your seat? Sit back and listen in while you feel the beat, yeah! Another myth bites the dust.
Hello, TPR Nation. This is Amber Kim from The Perfect RIA. Thank you for joining me on today's Follow Up Friday, where I'll be covering the highlights and action items from this week's episodes. Matt and Micah kicked off Monday's episode by talking about how Matt was recently playing Office by upgrading some of his equipment. But it led to the focus of their conversation regarding your prospect process and a big issue, which is where do you get into your own way when you're bringing in new clients? They said it's important that you're looking at your stats, such as where does a new client come from? What is your prospect process? And is that bringing value to the client? And if so, where? Or where does it break down and not add value? The guys shared examples of different categories of prospects. DIYers, people who you fail to deliver value to, or there's those people who either leave as clients or they aren't a good fit. However, they said that if you stand by that they aren't a good fit, you can't use this as an excuse for not delivering value to them. This also doesn't mean that you need to be more aggressive or provide more noise. Matt said that there is a line between bringing more value and being desperate or even pathetic in your prospecting. So you really need to look at your process. Micah said that if you don't have a prospect process, then you're just playing games to help your head trash. He noticed in his own office, when an advisor's stats drop for bringing on new clients, the reason ends up being that they're not following the process that actually works. Micah then walked through his prospect process. He said that no matter if a prospect is an ideal client or the right fit or not, if they're on his calendar, then his goal is to make that 1 hour time with them full of value. That way they walk away feeling that it was a great experience. The first 45 to 50 minutes is only focused on the prospect, not on the services that Micah can provide. He said that you have to be careful with the trap that a lot of advisors fall into, which is they start talking about themselves. So if a prospect asks how to hire him, he'll let them know that they'll talk about it later, but first he wants to focus on their questions and how to help him. When someone contacts his office, they've usually had some type of positive exposure to them. Once they sign up for the appointment, they connect with a firm, they get videos on what they can expect, and they're already being set up with expectations. All of these are value contacts. These aren't marketing newsletters. They're being provided with a piece of valuable information that will help them, so this isn't noise. Prospects and clients are also asked to submit questions in advance of their meeting. So once they come in for a meeting, Micah immediately goes into what big questions and concerns do they have. And he asks these questions with intense empathy. He said it's important to address their questions first because if not, they're not going to be paying attention to anything that he says. But by bringing up their questions, not necessarily answering them first, they know that they'll be answered during the meeting. From there, Micah will thank the clients for uploading all the information. Then he'll add that one of the things he's learned is that sometimes he hears a different answer than he sees, so is it okay to ask some questions about the documents that have been uploaded? Matt and Micah noted so many important points about this process. The first being how Micah is taking what can be a mechanical question and instead asking it with empathy and curiosity. Another thing they pointed out is the energy and enthusiasm that he's bringing into the room. Micah said that you, as the advisor, have to control that energy in the room. They also talked about the importance of building that connection with clients, because the more that you can do that, the better you can answer their questions and concerns. Matt pointed out that if you're spending all your time on talking or going through a 50-page financial plan, you're missing learning from this person and making a real connection. So by doing this differently, you're creating an experience that they haven't seen with anybody else. And this isn't a marketing play. You want to have a deep connection if you're going to be working with them. The guys also cautioned against getting focused if you see a potential big number from a prospect, and then feeling that you need to abandon your process because of that. They said the numbers are just numbers. They don't mean anything until you get to the story, and you can absolutely kill the deal here. You can hurt yourself by trying to oversell yourself in a prospect meeting, and it's not about selling, it's about delivering value. Matt and Micah also talked about how when meeting with a prospect, they share that they help with everything or nothing. There's no middle ground here. As an advisor, you need to have your arms wrapped around their entire financial piece. Micah said that if he doesn't feel he can help everywhere, then he doesn't feel that that person is the right fit for him. The phrase that Matt uses is, I insist on doing my best work, and I can only do my best work if, and then fill in the blank. He said this isn't just a clever line. He knows that he needs to be able to see everything and manage everything in order to do his best work. Let's get into action items. You have to have a prospect process. So what are the steps that happen when a prospect contacts your office? Look at when you're susceptible to breaking your process, and what forcing mechanisms do you need in place to stick to that process? And learn from those that are already doing this, those who figured out what actually works. On Wednesday, Matt was joined by Dave Zaegel from CWOs for Hire. Dave has a financial planning firm and accounting firm in his own podcast. Dave started with a traditional accounting path, and after about 10 years in, he decided to get into financial planning and then went independent a few years ago. Dave noticed that even though he can deliver massive value in tax planning because of his tax background, that it only goes so far, and people don't automatically just knock on your door. He said you still have to go through the steps of getting your message out and delivering massive value. Dave is really passionate about having forcing mechanisms in place for not playing office, and he felt that having both the financial planning and tax firms helped him keep from playing office, because he only had a set number of hours when he was starting on the financial planning piece. Matt said this is a reminder that we all have the same number of hours in a day, and Dave was doing all of this in 24 hours. So it's important to look at where are you wasting your time. Dave talked about how to avoid playing office and some key things that helped him stay focused. He said it's always a challenge no matter where you are in your practice. And he went as far as to suggest that you may need that forcing mechanism to be getting another part-time job or doing tax prep. Matt pointed out that playing office is both a waste of time and it's also toxic to your success, but it's hard to break that cycle. So Dave said that you want to think about how much time are you spending on other things versus what's going to drive your business forward and what's important to the client as well. Dave also talked about how tax planning works in his practice today and how he's transitioned from preparing taxes to financial planning. He said he's talking with clients about tax planning throughout the entire year because it's a giant piece of the financial puzzle. And that what he's sharing may seem simple to the advisor, but it isn't simple to the client. You have to be able to explain things in a way that the client is comfortable with. With transitioning to focusing more on financial planning, he said he started stepping away from the tax practice slowly. He said that they were slow to hire someone on that side, and they looked at everything before making that next hiring steps once they realized that they finally really needed to bring someone on. Dave also talked about why you want to narrow down your niche. He said the more that you can narrow down who you're focusing on and targeting, that helps your marketing message and the execution. Weed out who you're not going to work with and who you're not ideal for. You'll make life a lot easier in terms of processes and growth. Let's get into action items. Get another job if you need to. Anything that will restrict your time, and that way you're not playing office and you're not spending time on things that won't provide value. And then look at what would happen if you had to work 10 hours a week in another job. What would have to go in order for you to do that? On Thursday's episode, Jamie wanted to debunk myths about Surge and creating a lifestyle practice. Remember, Surge is a specific time block period in which you are hyper-focused on meeting with clients and delivering massive value. Those schedules are based on when it makes the most sense for the client. Jamie said the joke in their office is that once Surge ends, the real work begins because they have to follow through on everything they promised the client during Surge. She said you also want to make sure that when you're structuring your Surge schedule, you want to allow for buffer days to answer questions that come in during Surge. So going back to what Jamie mentioned in the beginning of our episode, and one of the myths about having a lifestyle practice, is she said that outside of Surge, you still have to be a financial advisor. Lifestyle is synonymous with being intentional. One of the most important rules that Jamie grew up with, in addition to showing up on time, being respectful, and saying that you're sorry and being accountable for your mistakes, is that you must do what you said you're going to do. Jamie said you can't vanish once you step out from Surge. Instead, you need to set up expectations with your clients that they have unlimited access to your team, not just you as the financial advisor. This allows you to be intentional about everything you're doing and how the relationship will work with your clients and your firm. She said that most of the time, your clients don't need you. They just need something done. They need you when they need financial advice, but most of the requests that they'll have will go to the rest of your team. Jamie shared a phrase to use with your clients that sets expectations with their financial planning fee and that they have unlimited access to your company. They want to be the starting and ending place for the questions. But when you're doing that, you're not breaking the process or offering unlimited access to a financial advisor's calendar. She said that you need to rephrase how you set the framework for your clients when you're in and out of Surge. To make this successful, she said you have to do what you said you're going to do. So whatever promises you made during Surge, you need to make sure that you're doing this after Surge. And you need to think about what your communication policy is and have this written down. Make sure your team knows where to go for questions outside of Surge. You have to go over this again and again with your team, including understanding what is an emergency. She said this is a process and it takes time for the entire team to feel comfortable with it. And there's no quick questions. If there are quick questions, then the team can answer it. And when emergencies happen, then someone needs you and you need to be able to give them your full undivided attention. And you can't be the easy button for your team. Jamie also talked about conferences and the importance of networking with others, which is more valuable than just listening to the keynote or trying to show how important or busy you are. You need to make sure that you're taking advantage of that opportunity. Again, all of this is happening outside of Surge. This time doesn't mean that you're not doing other things or not being intentional about your time. Let's get into action items. Rethink and reshape how you're going to communicate to clients about your availability inside and outside of Surge. As you plan out your Surge, make sure that you have buffer days to do what you said you're going to do. And develop a communication policy and make sure that you're going over this constantly with your team. That wraps up this week's recap. Thank you for joining me on today's Follow Up Friday. Be sure to give us 5 stars wherever you're enjoying this podcast and share this or any of our episodes with another advisor or a team member who you think might benefit from listening. And until next time, happy planning.
Hold on before we go. Something that you need to know. This isn't tax, legal, or investment advice. That isn't our intent. Information designed to change lives. Financial planning can make you thrive. Start today, don't think twice. Be a better husband, father, mother, and wife. The perfect RIA, the perfect RIA.